So Fulham have been relegated tonight after a 4-1 defeat to Watford. Decore opened the scoring for Watford, and then Ryan Babel equalised, and it made me think maybe Fulham are going to survive just for tonight. But second half goals from Will Hughes, for Kiko Firmino and from Troy Deeney put the knife in for Fulham, bringing to a close a very, very poor season. Their season is over. There's nothing they can do. Fulham will unsurprisingly be playing in the Championship next season. So they played 33 games. So they have 5 games remaining, which is the second or third now fastest relegation in terms of games left. It's really disappointing season for Fulham. They're miles behind everyone else, and the bottom 2 have now been confirmed. 76 goals conceded for Fulham. That is only likely to rise. It could be as high as 90 by the end of the season. Really disappointing season. So they started off brightly, and in the summer you thought, oh, they're going to definitely do something. They added to some very good players. They brought in Lamarchand, they brought in Jean-Michel Seri, they brought in 2 goalkeepers in Fabry and Sergio Rico. They brought in Alfie Mawson, they brought in Mitrovic, they brought in Anguissa, they brought in Joe Bryan, and then they had the loans of Callum Chambers, they had Fosu Mensah, they had Schürrle as well, Vieto as well was brought in. So they made some big acquisitions. They spent over £100 million in their first season in the Premier League, and it looked like things were going to go very well. They added to some very good players in the likes of Ryan Sessegnon, and in Tom Cairney they also had a very good player. Kevin McDonald played a very, very instrumental part in them getting promoted. So it looked like they were going to have a very decent season. I was expecting mid-table for Fulham after a very, very, very impressive window with Jokanovic, who plays a great style of football. But it never really materialised, unfortunately, for Fulham. It was a really disappointing season. They ended up having 3 managers in the end. Jokanovic lasted until November when Claudio Ranieri took over at Fulham. He lasted 17 games, winning just 3 of those, 17% win ratio. And there was nothing anyone could really do. He was taken over by Scott Parker. Scott Parker has lost every single game so far, including games, against Liverpool and Manchester City, but they've lost every single game. They are now 16 points behind with 5 games to go, so a maximum of 15 points. I feel really shocked, really, that they have struggled this much after the money they spent in the summer, but they sort of went about it the wrong way almost. They signed a lot of players. They didn't really stick with the players that got them there, that played the lovely football, that showed some brilliant performances going up, and they never really sorted out their defence, and they've had lots of different formations and combinations at the back, but none of them have really worked out, which is really disappointing. So they've only won 4 games all season, beating Burnley 4-2, beating Southampton 3-2, beating Huddersfield 1-0, and then beating Brighton 4-2. So 3 of those wins, they conceded 2 goals, and it's just such a hard task to win games and stay up when you're conceding the amount of goals that they have been conceding. They have lost 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games in a row. Really disappointing. They went out in the 3rd round of the FA Cup to Oldham as well, and it's just been a terrible season all round. I feel like they're going to have some difficulty getting rid of some of these players that have come on probably on big wages for big amount of money. Andre Schürrle is on a 2-year loan. He'll probably go back, but it is a bit of a mess. They didn't expect to spend that amount of money and be relegated as one of the worst teams the Premier League has ever seen. I think what they will do in the summer, they'll try and get rid of as many players as they can and go back to how it was under Jokanovic. Try and play a nicer brand of football, bring in some youngsters and try and get back there. They need to probably maintain a lot of the players that they already have, who are good enough for Championship football. Alfie Mawson, Joe Bryan, Cyrus Christie, and Ryan Sessegnon, Dennis Odoi, Kevin McDonald, Kearney, Mitrovic. All of these, they have a squad that will easily be able to cope in the Championship next season, in the playoffs. Maybe they need to strengthen their defence, but I expect them to have a good challenge next season as well, trying to get promoted again, because we saw what happened with Burnley when they were relegated under Sean Dyche. They stuck with them. Obviously this is a completely different, they've swapped managers several times this season, but they kept a core of their squad and ended up getting promoted. I think it was the season after, so season and then the season after that. So that's something maybe they could look at. All hope isn't lost with Fulham. They still have some very good players, particularly at Championship level, but that is where they will be playing next season. I feel really, really surprised that at the start of the season, if you told me, Fulham, they got no hope, I'd be like, well, they've signed some really good players. They brought in Lamarckland, they brought in Mitrovic, they brought in Alfie Mawson, who's very, very tidy. They brought in Jean-Michel Seri, Anguissa, Ryan Babel, and I'd have been very, very surprised. But unfortunately, money and signings doesn't equal a success. It would have been interesting to see how Fulham would have done if they'd have signed maybe 5 players, kept the core that got them up, maybe sorted out their defence a little bit. That would have been really, really interesting to see how that Fulham side would have done against this Fulham side, because I reckon it wouldn't be too dissimilar. I still think Fulham would have gone down, but maybe not like this. Very disappointing for Fulham. Thank you so much for watching this video. It is confirmed that Fulham have been relegated after a 4-1 defeat at Watford. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like and subscribe if you are new around here. But thank you for watching. My name is Mike and I will see you soon.